Republican candidate for governor Bruce Blakeman has officially chosen his running mate. Blakeman tapped Madison County Sheriff Todd Hood to be his number two. Hood has served in the role since 2018 and just won re-election in the fall. But that was after a little drama, leading Blakeman's first choice to ultimately withdraw. Jack Arpey joins me in the studio with more. So, Jack, what happened here?
Yeah, quite the back and forth, Susan. Blakeman had initially selected Fulton County Sheriff Richard Giordino for the role. That came out yesterday, but he told us he ultimately withdrew his nomination for a couple of reasons, part of that having to do with the amount of time that the role would take. He said after taking a little bit of time to think it through, he was going to withdraw that nomination because he didn't know if he could devote his energy to running for lieutenant governor while also being county sheriff at the same time. He said he was concerned that if he was out on the campaign trail with Blakeman for much of this year, that could ultimately come back to haunt him if he runs for re-election next year and has to explain that to voters within his own community. But there was another more curious reason that he won't be appearing on the ballot. It emerged that back in 2020, he did file to run for president against President Donald Trump in New Hampshire. And Giordino claims that he decided to run as a joke to his friends who have pointed out how many different positions that he's held throughout his career, saying he's done all of these things, but he hasn't yet been president. So when is he going to run? And he claims he did it also to make a statement about prioritizing law enforcement issues before quickly withdrawing. He called the move a lark, and apparently it didn't sit well with the Blakeman campaign that they didn't know about it during the vetting process. But he claims they didn't force his hand in withdrawing and that he didn't fail to disclose the situation to them during that vetting process intentionally. And he called it a mutual decision for him to ultimately not move forward and said that both elements factored in.
If we didn't win and I ran for re-election, I would take criticism that I spent a year on a campaign trail. Between that and between the perception that I was on a ballot to run against President Trump, it was wiser to at this point, just withdraw.
At that point, the campaign was left with no choice but to pivot, and they ultimately went with Hood. Blakeman stressed that Giordino having concerns over the time commitment of the role rather than that New Hampshire ballot situation was the ultimate deciding factor for him, and he was ready to embrace Todd Hood.
Didn't work out with Richard, but I've got a great candidate for lieutenant governor. The guy is terrific. He's a New York hero. Has a very strong record in law enforcement, comes from an important part of the state, in Sheriff Tom Hood from Madison County.
The Republican state convention begins this week, similar to the Democratic convention that just wrapped up. And starting tomorrow, they'll nominate their candidates for the other statewide offices, controller and attorney general, before ultimately getting around to governor and lieutenant governor before things wrap on Wednesday. The decision clearly fresh in Blakeman's mind there. He said Tom, but he obviously meant Todd.
He meant Todd,
Yes.
Sure. So what did Governor Hochul's campaign have to say about all this?
Well, their campaign kind of put out a joke of giving a bunch of people that potentially Blakeman was going to select, but Blakeman came back and said that perhaps Governor Hochul is not exactly the person who should be making jokes about lieutenant governor choices, considering all the trouble that we know that she has had.
Absolutely. Jack Arpey, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage. And click the subscribe button here. You can also download our app and watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.